Aloha, Hawaii Prepper! South Korean shoppers hoard salt and seafood ahead of Japan's release of treated radioactive water. In many supermarkets across South Korea, one item has conspicuously vanished from the shelves: salt. For the past month, the country has struggled with severe sea salt shortages as shoppers snap it up in bulk, reflecting heightened public anxiety ahead of the planned release of treated radioactive water from Fukushima, Japan. Japanese authorities and the United Nations Nuclear Watchdog Agency have insisted that the plan is safe, meets international standards, and matches what nuclear plants do around the world, including those in the United States. The treated contaminated water will be highly diluted and released gradually into the Pacific Ocean over many years. The move is necessary to finally decommission the Fukushima nuclear plant, which melted down in 2011 following Japan's devastating earthquake and tsunami. Authorities say the government has said the wastewater release will begin this summer, though it has not specified a date. But these assurances have so far failed to alleviate concerns in neighboring nations like South Korea, where fishermen say their livelihoods are at risk and residents are stockpiling food items for fear of contamination, and China, which has banned food imports from some regions in Japan. When CNN visited a supermarket in South Korean capital Seoul, the shelves are well stocked with seasonings ranging from garlic powder to chili paste, except for an empty gap where salt used to sit. A sign nearby read "Salt out of stock." There's been a delay in getting salt due to our partner's situation. We apologize for the inconvenience. Now, shoppers have even started hoarding other sea-based dietary staples like seaweed and anchovies, and Reuters reported in June, citing Korean social media. The shortages were so acute that the government has forced to release sea salt from its official reserves to stabilize salt prices, which have soared more than 40% since April, according to the country's Salt Manufacturing Association. The government also claims poor weather has impacted salt production and played a role in the price jump. The public doesn't have to worry about the sea salt supply, as the amount of the salt provided for June and July will be about 120,000 tons, which is above the average annual production, the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries said last month. We asked the public to purchase only the amount you need when buying sea salt. These anxieties were on display at Seoul's largest fish market last week, where officials with radiation detectors tested fresh produce at various stalls in a bid to soothe worried shoppers. South Korea has banned Japanese seafood imports from the Fukushima area since 2013 and said recently it planned to keep the order in place. But the ban hasn't reassured Korean shoppers who fear the treated wastewater could impact marine life far beyond Japanese waters. A Gallup Korea survey from June shows 78% of those polled said they were very or somewhat worried about contamination of seafood. When asked, some shoppers at fish markets told Korean media outlets and CNN affiliates that they might stop eating seafood once the wastewater is released. Other countries are also taking action. On Friday, China announced it was banning imported food from 10 Japanese prefectures, including Fukushima, and stepping up its inspection and monitoring processes for food from other parts of the country. This measure aims to prevent radioactive, contaminated Japanese food from being exported to China. The Customs Authority wrote in an online statement, "The public alarm is bad news for Japanese fishermen." Many Japanese fishermen had to suspend operation for years after the meltdown and barely managed to keep their businesses afloat Before the disaster, Fukushima's coastal fishing industry landed catches worth around 69 million in 2010. By 2018, that figure had dwindled to little more than 17 million. By last year, while it had recovered somewhat to around 26 million, it was still just a fraction of what it once was. The wastewater release could be the final blow, some say. South Korean fishermen who operate off the country's southeast coast close to Japan could also feel the impact. Now that more than 80% of the public are saying that they're going to eat less seafood, that's very worrying, said Lee Ji-sam, a fisherman in the port city Tongyang. If the public avoids seafood, we'll face a crisis of bankruptcy. He doesn't believe the authorities' insistence that the plan is safe, reflecting widespread skepticism despite Japan receiving approval from the UN's International Atomic Energy Agency. Even if I eat it, I'm not confident I can let my children eat it, Lee said. The IAEA has tried to alleviate concerns after a thorough safety review. It concluded in a report last week that the wastewater release would have negligible impact on people or the environment. In an interview with CNN last week, IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi said public fears were understandable and very logical, but insisted he is completely convinced of the sound basis of our conclusions. Some international skeptics, including Chinese officials and South Korean opposition party members, have cast doubts on the IAEA's findings and its stance on the issue, which IAEA leaders reject, claiming its investigation has been carried out fairly and transparently. The South Korean government said last week it would respect the IAEA's findings, but this hasn't convinced many residents, with hundreds taking part in a protest on Saturday in Seoul during Grossi's visit to the capital. So what does this mean, folks? Prepare. They're going to release treated radioactive waters from the Fukushima plant. Now, we don't know exactly when that is going to take place. It just stated in this article that I read sometime this summer, so it's obvious that they're going to have to release that information when they do release that radioactive water that is treated. But get all the necessary items that you need. Cans of tuna, anything from the sea, fish, any type of fish, and because this water is going to spread across the entire globe. It's going to go into the Pacific, where we're at here in Hawaii, and a lot of people in Hawaii eat a lot of different types of fish, and no one really knows how the effects will be on the sea animals, the fish, the marine life, and your salt comes from the ocean. And so if you have not stockpiled and put that up in your pantry, do so now ahead of time. I don't even know how reliable treated radioactive water truly really is, and its effects on the environment as well as on humans. In my thinking, it still carries that radioactiveness in it. So prepare, get all those necessary items that you need. Even seaweed, if you eat seaweed, everything that has seafood type of products, ingredients in it, you might want to think about stocking up more so on it, Because if this treated radioactive water is going to be released for God knows how many years, many years, that could be 10 years, that could be 20 years, and it could literally have a potential, dangerous impact on our oceans and our waters out there, as well as the sea life, the marine life that is in these waters. So guys, stock up, go get that salt, as much as you possibly can, as much that you need now, before they release that treated radioactive water into the ocean. Your canned fish, tuna, salmon, mackerel, sardines, all of those, you might want to think about doubling up on those stocks. If you do have some at home and you have them in your long-term, short-term pantries, go pick up more for you and your family if you eat those. If you want to eat fresh fish, start doing it now. Start bulking up on eating fresh fish. Maybe you might want to freeze that fresh fish as well. Just prepare. I wanted to get this across to you now, before they release that treated water. So I'm sure we're going to be hearing a lot more information as the days and or weeks start moving along. But just be aware and keep yourself updated with what's going on globally in the world, not just in your state, not just in your country, because everything that's going on globally affects everyone, such as releasing of this treated radioactive water. And we're all surrounded by water. We're all surrounded by the ocean, and we get a lot of food in the ocean. Now that could impact everyone one way or another. We don't know. We don't know what detrimental health impacts could happen. So just prepare, guys. Stock up as much as you can on the food items that come from the ocean. Other than that, guys, have a great day. Aloha.